Welcome to EtherLink AI Insights, the podcast where we unpack the future of artificial intelligence and help you stay ahead of the curve. I'm Alex, and I'm joined today by Sam. We're diving into something that's been absolutely central to enterprise strategy conversations lately: Agentic AI in 2026, and how it's reshaping workflows under the new EU AI Act. Sam, this feels like a pivotal moment for organizations across Europe.
Absolutely, Alex. And what's fascinating is that most organizations still conflate workflows with agents. They think they're the same thing, but they're fundamentally different beasts. An AI workflow automates repetitive tasks in a linear way. An agent? That's autonomous. It perceives, decides, adapts, and acts with minimal human intervention. That distinction is going to make or break enterprise strategy over the next couple of years.
So let's ground this. What's a concrete example of that difference? Because I think a lot of our listeners are probably running workflows today without even realizing it.
Perfect example: invoice processing. A workflow extracts data, validates it against templates, flags exceptions, and hands it to a human. That's automation. It's fast, predictable, auditable. But an agentic system does that extraction, spots payment discrepancies, researches supplier history, negotiates payment terms adjustments, and alerts leadership. All autonomously. No human in the loop until the decision matters strategically.
That's a game changer in terms of operational efficiency. And the data backs that up, right? I've seen numbers suggesting agents can cut overhead by 40%.
Yes, and it goes deeper than overhead. McKinsey's latest research shows 68% of enterprise leaders now distinguish between workflows and agents. They're not treating them as interchangeable anymore. That's the mindset shift. But here's what's crucial: adoption is accelerating. Deloitte found that 52% of European enterprises are piloting agentic systems. That's nearly tripled from 18% just 2 years ago.
That's explosive growth. But with that growth comes regulation, which is where the EU AI Act enters. Sam, how are organizations thinking about compliance? Because I imagine that's creating some friction in deployment timelines.
It's the elephant in the room for a lot of enterprises right now. The EU AI Act's 2026 enforcement phase is mandatory, and it uses a risk-based classification system. You've got prohibited risk systems, things like social scoring or mass surveillance with emotion recognition. Then high-risk systems, hiring automation, credit scoring, law enforcement support. Those demand impact assessments, human oversight, full documentation. It's not optional.
So different types of agents face different regulatory burdens. Walk me through the decision tree here. When should a company deploy a traditional workflow versus an agent?
It comes down to environment and risk profile. Workflows are your friend in deterministic scenarios: document classification, data validation, scheduled reporting. You know the inputs, you know the outputs, you can audit the path easily. Compliance is simpler because it's linear and transparent. But if you're in a dynamic, multivariable environment, like supply chain optimization or customer service triage, that's where agents shine.
And the ROI difference is significant.
Dramatically so. Boston Consulting Group studied demand forecasting specifically. Enterprises using agentic systems achieved 23% higher accuracy than workflow-based alternatives. For a mid-market manufacturer, that translates to 4.2 million euros in annual savings. That's real money, not theoretical optimization. But you need the governance infrastructure in place to realize it safely.
Let's talk about that governance infrastructure, because I think that's what keeps C-suite executives up at night. Under the EU AI Act, what does compliance actually look like for an enterprise deploying agents?
It's multi-layered. First, you classify your agent within the risk framework. If it's high risk, say it's making hiring recommendations, you need impact assessments, human oversight protocols, detailed documentation, and continuous monitoring. The law requires you to maintain records of how the agent made decisions. You need explainability, essentially. And crucially, you need human escalation paths. An agent can't be truly autonomous in a legal sense. There's always a human who pulls the cord if needed.
So it's not a blank check for autonomous systems. There's a governance guardrail. What about limited risk systems? Chatbots, content recommendations?
Less onerous, but not free. You need transparency. Users should know they're interacting with an agent. You need to disclose if content is AI generated, but you're not doing formal impact assessments for every chatbot deployment. The gradient matters. The EU AI Act is actually thoughtful about this. It creates compliance proportional to risk. The problem is implementation. A lot of enterprises are building compliance infrastructure now, and that's eating into budgets for 2026.
Gartner projected 87 billion euros in enterprise AI spending on autonomous agents by 2026, right? And 35% of that's allocated to compliance infrastructure. That's substantial.
It is. And it's not wasted spending. It's foundational. You can't scale Agentic AI without trustworthy governance. The organizations winning in 2026 won't be those with the most sophisticated agents. They'll be the ones with the most trustworthy, human-aligned autonomous systems backed by clear governance. That alignment matters more than raw capability.
So the competitive advantage isn't just in the agent technology itself, it's in the ability to deploy safely and compliantly. That raises an interesting question. How do organizations build that capability? Where do teams start if they're just beginning to think about agentic AI?
Practically, start with a pilot in a low-risk domain. Customer service triage is a great entry point. It's high impact, relatively contained, and the compliance requirements are manageable. You learn how to build escalation workflows, monitor agent behavior, interpret outputs. Then you build upward toward higher-risk applications once you have governance muscle memory and organizational buy-in.
That's smart incrementalism. And I imagine there's value in cross-functional learning too. You need product, legal, compliance, engineering all aligned.
Exactly right. This is where immersive learning actually helps. One-off compliance training or vendor webinars don't cut it. You need teams working through real scenarios, debating trade-offs between capability and safety, understanding how governance actually works operationally. That's why organizations are increasingly turning to immersive experiences where they can build agents, test them against regulatory frameworks, see failure modes, iterate. It's much faster than learning through production incidents.
That's a great segue because AetherTravel offers exactly that kind of immersive learning experience in Finnish Lapland, focused specifically on building and governing autonomous agents. It's not a traditional classroom setup. It's hands-on, in-environment learning where teams actually build agents and grapple with real compliance scenarios.
And honestly, that model makes sense given the stakes. You can't learn governance in a vacuum. You need to see how agents behave, how humans interact with them, where escalation breaks down. You need that tactile, iterative understanding. Plus, bringing teams together away from operational chaos forces the kind of strategic thinking these decisions require.
What should organizations prioritize first when they're evaluating whether to move to agentic AI? What's the checklist?
3 things. First, map your use cases honestly. Where are you currently using workflows that could become agents? What's the ROI delta? Second, assess your governance readiness. Do you have compliance expertise, documentation processes, human oversight infrastructure? If not, build that first. Third, pick a beachhead, a low-risk, high-impact domain for your initial deployment. Don't boil the ocean.
And by 2026, organizations that haven't started thinking about this strategically are going to be behind. The enforcement phase is real. The regulatory deadlines are real. The competitive pressure from organizations deploying agents effectively is very real.
Absolutely. 2026 isn't far away. If you're still treating Agentic AI as a future consideration, you're late. You should be piloting now, learning what works in your context, building governance capability. The window for responsible first-mover advantage is closing.
For listeners who want to dig deeper into the specific governance requirements, use cases, and strategic frameworks, head over to etherlink.ai and find the full article on Agentic AI in 2026. There's also more information about the immersive learning experiences where teams can build and test agents in a structured, compliant environment. Sam, thanks for breaking all this down.
Thanks, Alex. This is going to be a defining year for enterprise AI. Get started now.
That's our show. Thanks for listening to EtherLink AI Insights. We'll be back soon with more deep dives into the AI landscape shaping 2026 and beyond. Until then, keep thinking critically about how autonomous systems fit into your strategy.